spectacular,
as well.
over the top. I mean, that was a full force shot to the temple. I mean, he's right now. So they wipe off his gloves, but you look at him like he's really feeling it right now. I mean, he probably has no idea where he is.
When I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct, you just will never be a good fighter.
Likely that one big shot's going to land if the guy's not throwing other shots. So I thought with less artillery in the air, less bombs in the air, that the guy would have a chance to get to later rounds.
Joe Rogan reacts to Jake Paul's knockout defeat with laughter alongside Anthony Joshua, describing the fight as a clear mismatch from the very beginning. Rogan points out that Jake typically competes against retired boxers or MMA fighters, not an elite Olympic heavyweight champion. He emphasizes that Joshua isn't just skilled, he's also significantly heavier than Jake's natural weight class. From a practical boxing standpoint, Rogan says the outcome was predictable well before the first punch, and the results simply confirmed what everyone expected.
Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the...
Following the fight, Anthony Joshua made a pointed post-fight comment, saying that the knockout actually spared Jake Paul. He explained that had the bout gone longer, he would have thoroughly worn him down both mentally and physically. Joshua implied that the early stoppage likely prevented even greater punishment in the ring.
Fighting's not just physical, it's psychological. And when you understand the psychological warfare, I did say to you that, Jake, what's going to happen? I'm going to see a time when I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct...
The idea of Anthony Joshua facing Jake Paul immediately sparks debate in the boxing world. Many view it as more of a spectacle than a legitimate sporting contest, given the huge differences in size, experience, and credentials. Joshua is a two-time heavyweight champion and Olympic gold medalist, while Jake Paul is still developing his skills in the sport. As a result, the matchup comes across as entertainment designed for attention rather than a serious boxing challenge, which is why critics have labeled it a circus fight. Simon Jordan weighed in strongly after Joshua knocked out Paul and broke his jaw, arguing that the event harms boxing's credibility.
Industry, because straight after the fight, I heard the question being posed to Joshua, will he now fight Fury? And then my first thought was, after what I've seen, who cares? After that, who cares if Joshua fights Fury? I like Anthony Joshua immensely, Spencer. Any exchanges I've had with him, I think he comes across terrifically well. But I fail to see where it's taken him, other than hugely increasing his bank balance. You know, I really fail to see what this has done.
Well, it's done nothing, but he was going to fight in November, like I said, and he's just gone in there against Jake Paul. What has it done for his legacy? Absolutely zero. But it was, you know, he's earned a lot of money doing that. And he's going to go again, and he's going to fight possibly February, March, and then there's that Tyson Fury fight that's looming that could happen in September, whether Tyson Fury decides to come out of retirement or not come out of retirement. For Anthony Joshua, he's earned a hell of a lot of money. This is prize fighting, and that's what it's all about. And that's what he's done. And
Jordan contends that these kinds of bouts blur the line between genuine sport and mere spectacle, diverting focus from meaningful competition. He points out that Joshua has already secured both a significant legacy and generational wealth, meaning he doesn't need gimmick fights to maintain his status. Even if a matchup with Tyson Fury never comes to fruition, Jordan notes that Joshua's financial stability would make stepping away entirely understandable.
Earning more than Joshua. That apart, Spencer, 6 rounds to get Paul out of there. Reputationally, how does it leave AJ?
Well, thankfully, it didn't go to points, because I think that would have been a disaster for Anthony Joshua. I think that he needed to get the job done inside the distance, you know, and he done it. Look, he could have done it at any given point. I think that he could have cut the ring off whenever he wanted to and got Jake Paul out of there. He took his time on that. He allowed Jake Paul to run around like a rabbit and throw the occasional shot from time to time. And I think he only landed one clean punch, didn't he, Anthony Joshua? And that was the one that broke his jaw in 2 places.
But, I mean, you said, did you not, to us in this very studio the other day, he's got to get him out of there in round 1.
I did.
Otherwise, what are we seeing?
Exactly that. And I think what we saw there was a little bit of entertainment. And that was pretty much it. But not entertainment that many people enjoyed, if I'm honest. I think that people wanted to see a demolition.
Joe Rogan praises Anthony Joshua, pointing out his speed, athleticism, and knockout power. He notes that Joshua moves with the agility of a much lighter fighter, yet possesses one-punch power capable of ending fights instantly. Rogan describes him as a nightmare opponent because of how quickly he can close the distance and finish exchanges. According to Rogan, these attributes make it unrealistic for crossover fighters to compete with him on a serious level.
Boxer, but this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is
Here's the
terrifying.
thing that nightmares are made of.
And he's got that one-punch nuclear power. One punch.
Adam Booth delivers a candid breakdown, noting that Jake Paul did manage to make Anthony Joshua miss on a few occasions, which he considers noteworthy. Booth highlights that Jake's movement and positioning showed marked improvement and discipline, forcing Joshua to reset instead of landing freely. While Booth is clear that this didn't mean Jake was winning, he emphasizes that causing hesitation against an elite heavyweight is significant and demonstrates progress in Jake's development. Booth continues his analysis by explaining that making a fighter of Joshua's caliber miss isn't accidental. It requires preparation, timing, and confidence. He praises Jake's footwork and his ability to remain composed under pressure. However, Booth also stresses that these moments don't alter the fight's overall reality. Joshua's skill, power, and experience ultimately dictated the outcome once he found an opening.
Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul shared a ring. Your takeaways from the 6 rounds that we saw, presuming you watched?
I was impressed with Jake Paul. I thought that, following on from what we're saying, right? A few years ago, he was on Disney as a kid, acting up, and has decided to become a professional fighter. That takes balls, but he's obviously striving to be as good as he can be. You can see that in the way that he moves, the way that he has developed in how he's punching and performing. But to make a 2-time world heavyweight champion that's still live, AJ's still got something about him, to make him miss in such an accomplished manner. All right, so at times he was jumping out and running around, but there were times when he was well in range and still making AJ unable to land a clean, solid shot. He deserves a lot of respect for that. And then the shot that actually finished the fight, that broke his jaw quite badly, didn't put him out. That shot he threw with serious intention has put a lot of professional heavyweights to sleep. He didn't go to sleep. He actually finished on his knees, didn't he? Laughing and spitting blood out of his mouth. So, like they say, it's a special type of crazy and a special type of brave to do it. But I actually, hats off to him, because he showed that he's developing some accomplished little skills in there to look after himself. The size difference is always going to fatigue him.
I know everyone will come with the idea that, AJ should just go in there one round and smash him to bits, and that should be it. It was a big ring, right? Perhaps he could have cut the ring off a bit better, but would I be right in saying that regardless of skill level, if you forget about that with the 2 for a second, if someone is on the back foot and on their bike and doing what Jake was doing, it's difficult no matter who you are, no matter the kind of separation in skill level.
It's a big ring, and you've either got to run at him and look like a novice yourself, or just take your time and understand.
After the fight, attention turned to Logan Paul, who appeared to challenge Anthony Joshua and spoke about seeking revenge for his brother. Reports suggest Logan expressed interest in a bout with Joshua. Analysts quickly dismissed the idea, noting it would be an even bigger mismatch than Jake's fight. Jake trains full-time with professional boxing coaches, while Logan lacks that level of commitment and skill. A matchup between Logan and Joshua would likely be extremely one-sided. Discussion around the aftermath reinforced the view that Logan Paul's pursuit of Joshua would cross from spectacle into outright farce. Analysts point out that even Jake, despite his loss, demonstrated a basic level of competency in professional boxing. Logan, in contrast, is seen as far less polished and less serious. The general consensus is that such a fight would offer no real competition and would only fuel further criticism about the direction of modern boxing.
Would be more of a mismatch than Jake Paul. You know what I mean? Because at least Jake Paul has taken boxing or has trained with real boxing trainers and real boxers. Whereas Logan Paul, you know, he did that exhibition with Floyd, and Floyd's a little guy. Not saying a little guy can't thump, because Floyd really gave him some two pieces with no sides, right? But at the same time, you take his friend, Floyd's friend, Anthony Joshua, and get hit by him and see what happens. The same thing. Probably worse, because I think Logan, you know, he's a little taller than Jake. And because he's a little taller than Jake, he may think he's a little stronger than Jake. Which I don't know which one's true or not. I don't think it makes a difference. But because he may feel that way, he may want to go in there and try to bang it out with AJ. And if that happens, it's going to be a lot quicker. See, that 6 rounds it took AJ to finally catch Jake. It took that way because Jake was on that bicycle, moving, being elusive, trying to come in and then come out. He tried to do a very poor man's Alexander Usyk, right? And it didn't work for him. Logan ain't gonna do that. Logan's gonna come in throwing punches and bunches like he did with Floyd, trying to get him in there and, you know, do all this stuff. And what's gonna happen as soon as AJ lines him up, sets his punch, he's gonna hit Jake and he's gonna break Jake down.
Sugishano Mali examines the aftermath of the fight by focusing on Jake Paul's mindset leading up to it. He notes that the trash talk and confidence Jake displayed before the bout were often misunderstood by critics. According to Mali, Jake needed that mental preparation to step into the ring against a 2-time Olympic champion. He explains that self-belief and mental rehearsal are crucial when facing overwhelming odds, even if the outcome isn't in your favor. Mali adds that without that psychological edge, Jake would have struggled to perform under the intense pressure. He argues that much of the criticism overlooks just how challenging it is to face someone of Joshua's caliber. While the defeat was clear, Mali believes Jake's approach demonstrated respect for the challenge and underscored the mental demands of going up against an elite heavyweight.
Out in the ring.
Jake was shooting double legs too.
Shooting double legs, nice
Duck
ones
unders.
with ankle picks, duck unders. But dude, God, people I see so much people talking shit on the fight, which, dude, what the fuck did they expect? Like, Jake was hyping himself up, saying he's gonna win. Dude, that's self-belief. He needed that to go in. He needed that to get himself into the ring. You know what I'm saying? He just needed that.
What do you think about the sticking that tongue out?
Dude, he's a showman. This is a fucking YouTuber that switched to pro boxing.
Yep.
And he's fighting Anthony fucking Joshua. He made $90 million, $7.5 million per minute. Nate Diaz says that boy don't work hard enough. This girl in the UFC said Jake Paul shot more double legs in boxing in a match than I did in my UFC career. Ryan Garcia said he's a runner, he's a track star. Aljamain said this is a clown show. Josh Hammond said, dude, it's like, what did they expect? They expect him to go in there and look like a clean fucking Floyd versus Manny Pacquiao. Two of the, you know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck?
You see the aftermath, like his jaw and everything? Fuck.
Jake Paul's broken jaw. Jake has to get wired shut for 7 days or something like that.
Yeah, like titanium
Tim had to do
plates.
7 weeks.
Yeah, Tim says that was the worst thing he's ever gone through.
7 weeks. Tim broke his jaw in Montana. Tried to go to the hospital. Hospital said the surgeon's out of town. So now he has to. So he's fucking goes like a week without even getting surgery. At least Jake was able to probably get it like next day, that same day. But it's like all the people hating on Jake. It's crazy. Connor said Jake is stupid and will be altered permanently from this bout. I look at it. It's inspiring seeing what he does, because I know how much like he's putting in work. He's doing legitimate fight camps. He's doing sparring. He's doing rounds. He's eating. He's doing everything.
Teddy Atlas explains that his prediction of the fight lasting several rounds was based on genuine boxing considerations, not any fixed or staged scenario. He points to factors like Anthony Joshua's long layoff, his prior knockout loss, and a natural mental hesitation that follows such setbacks. Atlas notes that these ghosts take time to overcome, especially for a fighter who isn't a fast starter. He also highlights the larger ring size, which gave Jake Paul extra space to move and survive in the early rounds. Atlas believed Jake had a solid game plan focused on movement and endurance. However, as Joshua's pressure intensified, the demands became overwhelming. According to Atlas, Jake reached levels of mental and physical exertion he had never encountered before. The combination of Joshua's relentless pressure, Jake's muscular build leading to quicker fatigue, and the intensity of elite competition caused him to gas out. Atlas emphasizes that the fight was entirely real, with the outcome determined by the realities of boxing.
Go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a silent agreement. I wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that we'll spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why I said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it. But there was real parts. Say, that's the fixed part. That's the WWE part. That's where the people, and I'm with you. I get it if you want to think that. Here's why I picked rounds, and this is what I think I saw, and I know that in my mind I saw, was the fact is that a lot of people didn't think about. 15 months off. And there was going to be some rust. There was going to be some hesitation. There was going to be some time. You get knocked out by Dubois. Freaking 15 months ago. There were going to be ghosts in the attic. I don't care who you're fighting. You get in the ring again. It's going to take a minute to exercise those ghosts. The rust. You want to call it rust, whatever. It's going to take 5-6 rounds to get rid of the rust. But it's going to, the doubt, the self-doubt, the being in the ring for the first time with nothing in between after being knocked out. That was going to be a play. And then the size of the ring, 22 by 20. It's usually 20 to 20 is pretty usually around average. And it's 22 by 20. More room to elude, more room to move around, right? I thought maybe go in there with track shoot.
Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi deliver a candid analysis of the fight, emphasizing just how harshly it ended for Jake Paul. They note that Jake sustained serious injuries, including a jaw broken in 2 places and lost teeth, yet still struggled to earn respect from boxing fans. Chris points out that fans weren't impressed because Jake never fully committed to fighting. He suggests that going out aggressively, even at the risk of an earlier knockout, would have earned him more respect. Comparing it to the Ngannou fight, Chris emphasizes that fighters gain credibility when they genuinely try to win. Paulie adds that Jake's hit-and-run strategy was ultimately unsustainable. Constant movement drains energy and only delays the inevitable, especially in a large ring. He explains that Jake lacks the boxing skills to simultaneously move and fight effectively. For a novice, a fighter can either go on the offensive or run, but not both. By choosing survival, Jake lost favor with fans, and both analysts agree that this approach damaged his standing more than an early knockout would have.
An Ngannou type fight. Yeah, Ngannou, he's got balls. Ngannou's got balls, man. He went out there and he tried to fight, tried to win. Jake Paul didn't try to win at any point during the fight. He was just trying to survive. I think that's actually ultimately going to hurt him with boxing fans.
Yeah, what do you think, Paulie? I mean, you talked about the in and out kind of style, kind of hits and runs, and you said that A, it runs out your legs. He was exhausted a couple rounds into the fight, and B, it only saved him for so long.
He doesn't have the boxing skills to box on the move anyway. Once I saw the big ring, I knew he was going to run for his life. When you're that much of a novice, which obviously it's not even an insult to him, it's just lack of experience. But when you're that much of a novice, you either know how to run for your life or fight all out. You don't have that in between yet. You haven't developed enough of that in between boxing acumen to really pull that off. And so what ends up happening? You're either going to fight your ass off and you'll last a minute. Chris, you're being generous. Round 2, he would have got knocked down round 1 if he would have fought. But at least he would have fought. He would have got the respect of the people and more importantly, the boxing community instead of these clowns that follow him and are still defending him. Now what happens is you didn't get any respect as a fighter. You didn't get any respect as a fighter because you didn't try to fight at all. If he would have, I was watching that through 2-3 rounds. I'm thinking to myself, this guy would do this for 8 rounds if he can. If he can do this for 8 rounds, absolutely not fight at all, absolutely not engage a single time in 8 rounds, he will actually do this. And he'll do it shamelessly. And that's the problem. That's the problem. The shamelessness of his approach to the fight. You're going to be a fighter, then don't make an ass out of the whole sport, out of the whole business, and out of yourself first and foremost. Because in the end, what happens? You got his jaw broke anyway. So what ends up happening? What's the worst that's gonna happen? You're gonna get hurt, you're gonna get knocked out? You got hurt and you got knocked out anyway. But you just prolonged the inevitable and you got no respect out of it now. Because nobody's respecting that kind of performance. Nobody's respecting a performance where you were totally content to steal money from everyone.
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.